Okay, um, today we're going to review some if-then work. We touched on it with the bonus, and again, this isn't the only way you can use them, but with grades and with some sales, it's kind of an easy way to do it. I wanted to show you and just kind of talk briefly about it. There's three parts to an if-then statement. The first part you want is the test or the condition. The second part is then what happens if it's true, and then what happens if it's false. Now, every one of them starts with equals if as its main beginning. These are all going to give you some different things. We're going to put some words in and show you a couple different things just so you get comfortable with it. It's not something that is an absolute necessity, but it does help, especially those that are going to go on to higher math, science classes where you might use some Excel. Here it says you will get a 10% bonus if you have sales over 65,000. If not, leave that space blank. These are the sales people. And so what we want to do is decide what is the question or test or condition they're asking. What happens if it's true? What happens if it's false? So you will get a 10% bonus if you have sales over 65,000. So we start everything with equals if, and then it kind of reminds you test, comma, separates the test from the true, comma, separates the true from the false, ending parentheses. So the test is if sales are greater than 65,000. And again, we can't put a comma in here because it'll say that's the end of the test. So this is the test. What happens if it's true? You get 10% bonus if you have sales over 65,000. So we will do the true part, sales times 10%, comma. Again, we're doing locations. So if this number was to change, we would be able to multiply the correct number without having to type it in our formula. What happens if it's false? It says, if not, leave the space blank. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things. Anything that goes, when you see these quotes and quote, if you put anything inside there, so I'm just going to scribble, and then you close parentheses. Whatever shows up, if it's a false statement, whatever shows up inside the quotes will show up in the formula answer. So if you want it to be left blank, you just put quote, quote, and there it is, it's left blank. And then remember how to copy it down, and you put your cursor, and then you can manipulate it however you want by putting the comma down there. Now again, the formula's there. If you click on these, the formula's up in your formula bar. If you double click, you can use it. If I wasn't to use these quotes and I just left it blank, so this is the test, this is what happens if it's true, and you say you want to leave the space blank, so you just don't put anything and hit enter. Sometimes, depending on how it's formatted, it might have a 0, or if it was accounting or whatever, it might have a dash or whatever the case may be. And if you want it left blank, you keep the quotes and don't put anything in there. Whatever shows up inside the quotes and typed inside the quotes will show up. So that's how you leave a space blank. You put the quotes. The quotes will allow you not to be able to put words and numbers and symbols in there. Okay, so the second one, we're using the same salespeople and their numbers. If you get a 22% bonus if you have sales equal or over 60,000. If not, you get a 2.5% bonus. Okay, so it's a big difference. So we want to make sure our salespeople are getting paid correctly. So the question, again, is if sales are equal or over 60,000. So we have sales. We do the inequality first, greater than or equal to 60,000, comma. Again, the test, the condition, the test is followed by a comma to separate that, then the true part's next, and then the false part. Again, we don't put a comma here. If it's true, what happens? You get a 22% bonus, and the bonus we're doing now is on the sales. So sales times 22%, 0.2. Now you don't want to close the parentheses, you want to hit a comma. If they're greater than or equal to 60,000, they get 22%. Well, this person isn't. So then what happens if it's not? If not, you get a 2.5% bonus. So bonus is the sales times 0.025, 2.5%. And then we close parentheses, and we're allowed to have copy it down, and you can see the difference. The rent sales is below 60, so he gets a smaller bonus. These people's sales is greater, so they get a bigger bonus. Inequality before the equal sign. All right, that's important, and then we finish things up. So this is an example of doing a formula to get the true and the false, whereas this one was just a formula to get the true, and if we wanted left blank, we would use quotes and not put anything in there. Now this one, if we wanted to get rid of that percent sign so it wouldn't confuse you any, if a grade is of 80 or higher, you get 25 bucks. If not, a 0 should appear. So we do equals if, then parentheses, if the grade, so we have to do the test, what is it? 80 or higher. So greater than or equal to 80 is our test. And that sometimes is the trickiest part, is figuring out this first true test. What is the test? What is the question? Maybe it's a better way. A grade of 80 or higher gets 25 bucks. So we first got to find out, is the grade greater than or equal to 80? If so, the true part means you get $25, comma. If not, they want a 0 to appear. So we're going to show you a couple different ways. If they want a 0, put a 0, and then we close parentheses. And then we copy it down. Okay. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. We'll start backwards. How do we, if you wanted to get rid of the 0, if you just leave the false part false and copy it down, it'll still put a 0 there. If you leave the false part empty, like don't type a 0, it'll still show a 0. So that's one thing. Another thing is, if you wanted to do a $sign, it says $25. If you just wanted to do all that, it's not hard to format it, right? And hit $sign. And this just means zeros. You can change that if you wanted. But it's not that hard to do that. But if you wanted, you could set it up in your formula. You can't just type a $sign because it is not a number or formula that will read the formula. So you need to put, like we did before, whatever is inside the quotes will appear if it is true. So then that just gives you the $sign in with the true people. If sales are greater than or equal to 80, you put quote $sign 25. That way you can do that. If you didn't want to, then you would get rid of the $sign and get rid of the quote, copy that down, and then just do a $sign on the ones you want. And you just, if you want to leave the zeros, you can hold the command key and click on those 3, or you can format it with the accounting and numbers. Whatever way, each of those is right. Sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to set it up. I always thought we were always taught this to be a little more correct, but it's all correct. It just depends what you want to do. Grade that is above 90, you get $50. If not, nothing should appear. So we start out equals if parentheses, and the test is if the grade is above 90, so greater than 90. If so, then $50 appears. So whatever shows up inside the quotes will show up if it's true, comma. What happens if it's false? They want the word nothing, literally the word nothing, to appear. So one of the main things is people might forget to put the ending quotes. They might forget the last parenthesis. So those would be common errors. So just take your time So the word nothing appears for all these guys, except for Bob, he gets the $50. And again, if you didn't want that 50, you can just do it like that and then put a dollar sign on there. It just depends what you want to do. You can change it, whatever you want to do with all this stuff. But anyway, that is some different ways of doing the if-then statements. Hope I didn't go too fast. Take a look at them. This will allow you to leave spaces blank if it's true or false. This allows you to multiply twice for the false and true items. This allows you to put dollar signs in the actual cell, and this would also then allow you to put a dollar sign in the cell or nothing, or however you want to set it up. The actual word nothing. We used to do an assignment that said for inventory we would have it. If it's below a certain level, then we would reorder. We don't do that one anymore, but anyway, that's kind of the idea behind it. Hope that helped and you're able to follow that.